When we first met, Colgate Palmolive's kind of projects and challenges, we realized that scalability was a big thing. They have multiple brands, multiple entities, dozens of countries, and they needed to do it, the rollout, in like a fraction of the time that the world of e-commerce used to be doing it. So, Helen, the first question is for you. How has VTEX architecture supported international expansion and regional differentiation for Colgate, Palmolive, and the projects that you're running?
Great. So hi, everyone. First of all, just thank you for having me here today, and thanks for coming to listen to our journey at Colgate Palmolive. It's certainly been a journey, and that's part of, I guess, my answer to this question. It's a journey we've been on for many years, and being on stage here is a testament to the success we've had over the past couple of years in really unlocking the vision of where we want to be in this space. So where VTEX has really played in that sweet spot, if we think about our legacy tools that we were using in the e-com space, super robust, lots of flexibility to be able to cater to the complexity that we have in a business like Colgate Palmolive, but really platform as a service. So when we think about from where I live in the world of technology and the solutions we're delivering to our commercial partners, there was a lot of work that we had to do on foundational things to set up each time, which really extended our time frames in terms of being able to put out just the basics and then get to those differentiating components that we needed to for specific markets, for specific brands. Where we've gotten to with VTEX has really unlocked our vision there of being able to go in the market and get those commodity components of commerce from you guys, bundle that together into a core, the things that we want to be standard across our markets, across our brands, and then really focus our time and effort on those differentiating pieces to deliver value to our professional customers.
Jason, do you see scalability for big enterprises? Jason is the host of one of the most popular podcasts in the United States, so it's an honor to have you here. Do you see scalability as a challenge that is already over for the enterprise, or still is a problem?
No, I'll be super excited and thrilled when that challenge is finally over. I'm not sure it ever will be over, although we'll be unemployed. But still, I'd be okay with it. I think it's an ever increasing problem, and especially like you think of companies in Colgate's situation, like very frequently House of Brands got that way partly through organic growth and inventing brands and adding new products and new business models, but also through acquisition, right? And so then you think about, well, wait, we acquired these different companies that have slightly different optimal customer experiences and slightly different trade terms and slightly different geographies that they play in. And you just have this ever increasing number of requirements, like to solve each of them with a separate point solution is wildly unaffordable, and we would never have enough resources. So the ongoing challenge, I feel like, is creating systems that can meet these needs at the same time that the needs are ever expanding.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. The complexity in enterprise will always be there, and something with the AI world might challenge this status quo and change a little bit. But we're going to go.
What are those words?
AI.
Oh, got it.
That's new, yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to write that down. It might be a thing.
It's interesting. I was expected to see more in NRF. I expected like to see all the vendors with outcomes and testing things. Not there yet, right, Jason? It's not there yet.
I was kind of expecting that my lunch would be an AI hot dog.
Okay, so automation. It's also a growing focus for Colgate Palmolive. Can you share some examples of how automation has unlocked efficiencies and allow your teams to work smarter?
Yeah, for sure. I would say automation has always been a big focus for us and really is existential given the scale that we have. I think the key area that we have been focused on in more recent times and continue to be as we go into 25 in this space is around quality assurance. So if we think about the brands and the products we have out there, we feel very proud about how scientifically driven they are, the quality of those products, and we want our systems and digital solutions that we're putting out there to our customers to match that same level of quality. And so as we're unlocking the momentum around and unlocking that tech strategy we've put in place to be able to continuously deliver new features and functionality, we're also focusing on automating the quality assurance testing. So we've made a lot of progress in that space, and now with AI, we really hope to supercharge that, right?
And
really
curiosity
unlock
on the
features.
automation. This is under the IT group, this is under the business group, this is a strategic project. How is organized inside? Is you in your group?
I would say it's both and all of those things, right? Automation for me is one of those ubiquitous things that crosses all of the functions that we have in Colgate-Palmolive and all of the different divisions. We want to be able to automate the repetitive tasks that are there. So within our group, we focus within what is in our responsibility and how we can unlock the automation. And we have some central teams that help with the tools and solutioning to do that.
Jason, what do you think about the Chief Innovation Officer kind of a rule that some retailers, they pop up? Is there a thing like you can have an area of innovation or?
Well, that's a great question. That's an age-old debate. I would say in all business, but certainly in retail, we call it like the ivory tower innovation. Like innovation happens by these special shiny people over here in the coolest building with the biggest budget and
better coffee.
Yeah, no better coffee and no success criteria whatsoever.
Yes.
That most importantly, I can't emphasize enough the lack of criteria. And there are benefits to that, like people that don't have another job to distract them, that can be coming to all these events and conferences and learning about the newest things. Like I obviously am making fun of it, but there are legitimate benefits to that standalone function. The flip side is they don't necessarily understand the true business requirements of the real business, and they haven't sort of lived in the actual business processes that all this innovation has to support. And so you tend, over time, to see lots of brands and retailers flip-flop. We have a lab, we have an innovation center, and then maybe they scale that down or let it go entirely, and they come up with organic initiatives to help the frontline employees create innovation, right? And it sounds easy, but it feels to me like the obvious correct answer is to have some responsible blend of both. That you do want dedicated people that have a KPI around pure innovation, but that's probably not where you want the core of your investment and the core of your effort, and all these efforts have to be tied to the mainline people that are delivering actual business results.
Yeah. I'll add to that one. I totally agree, and I think that's what we've really seen. I disagree with you, Jason.
I'm doing a debate on Tuesday, so don't.
I'm Irish.
Today.
I could debate you all day. No,
Yeah.
maybe not. I really think that hybrid is really important, and that's what we've seen here, where there's innovation that's happening at the center, and we're benefiting from in our teams, but also embedding some of our folks with those teams or driving some kind of innovation within the group as part of the process. Otherwise, you kind of go to one side of the pendulum or the other, and neither really works.
Yeah, I would also just add, I think there's this interest, sort of your maturity in any given solution set also has some impact on what the best structure is, right? And so you think, like I'm on the digital council here at NRF, and that digital council used to all be, everyone had the same title, Chief Digital Officer. And we used to joke that there used to be this title in factories called Chief Electricity Officer. And like when all the factories went from steam to electricity, it was really hard to figure out how to get electricity to your plant. So you hired a chief electricity officer. Today, most plants have electricity and no one needs a dedicated electricity. And we all joked, hey, chief digital officer is probably the same thing. It makes sense for a company that hasn't been very digital and is dealing with all this disruption to have someone specifically thinking about that, but it probably is not a systemic, long-term role within the organization that we'll always need.
There is one of my, I do some lectures in Cambridge, and one of the kind of warm-up topics is that what used to be the biggest concentration of headcount for companies in 1950s, the biggest department, the typing.
Yeah, data entry.
data entry. And for you to be the head of the data entry in the typing department was a huge thing. And then a guy called Bill Gates came with a computer that now everybody types, and the department of typing just vanished. So I believe we might be in a period of blindness, but something big is about to happen. No, I believe everybody feels that, and NRF booming like that, it is a sense of these. Nice. Helen, what specific challenges, and please, what specific challenge did Colgate Palmolive face with its legacy B2B e-commerce system? And how did VTEX and Public Sapiens collaborate to address those challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I think I covered some of this in my previous answer around the whole kind of platform as a service and all the different pieces that we had to build. And we took that a step further as we kind of thought about it internally of how can we develop our own core for on top of VTEX, deliver that as a standard. Those commodity pieces that we felt were consistent across the different brands. So we worked with the different brands to identify what that looked like. Obviously worked with our professional partners in terms of what they needed, and then defined where we had some flexibility. So giving people some clear options and a space where we leave it open because we know there's going to be local market needs in terms of their go-to-market, in terms of regulation, etc. And so really, VTEX have been super partners in terms of working through some of those more complex pieces that were very specific to us and learning how we can architect that and build it in a sustainable way. So we're not saying, oh great, this is here, but we've built the Frankenstein over here, because we've got to be thinking always where we're going with it. And Public Sapiens really got us going. We had a lot of folks in the team who had experience in other platforms. VTEX was very new to us, so we tend to leverage our SIs for expertise strategically, that as we build that experience internally. We were also growing our team, so we really tried to get a nice blend of folks who'd been around Colgate Palmolive for a while, understand our core order to invoice processes as well as what we do in commerce, and then some new folks who came in who could really look at the experience side of it as well.
So we launched today a campaign. The kind of a marketing signature of VTEX is going to be commerce for grown-ups since today forward. And this is a little bit about what we talk about, the grown-up CIOs, the grown-up professionals, is that, you know, like if you believe that situations are simple by default, you're going to fail, because the challenges in a Colgate Palmolive or a Motorola or a Samsung or any huge corporation, it's not simple. There are the human factor, that's a huge aspect. There are the politics, there are the technology, there are the architecture, there are this like legacy. So to navigate those environments, to put something fast in 3-4 months go lives and roll out to the world, and multiple kind of doing with dentists, dealing with nutrition, dealing with multiple B2B, B2C, B2B2C, B2B to B2B. So it's pretty interesting what you are doing. I'm a big fan of the way you navigate. You really make it simple. So yeah, my comments on the challenge. Jason, for you, you see when we talk about e-commerce, people say like B2C. That's where e-commerce is. Actually, we are seeing the last 3 years a pump of the B2B demand. Do you foresee a huge market for B2B? What's your vision for B2B commerce?
Yeah. So first, I'd like to point out, I feel like my questions are harder than Helen's questions. Is that true? No, I'm just,
Hey.
I'm just kidding. I feel like maybe you just have better answers. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. So short answer, yes. Like if you just look in terms of raw numbers, here in the US, we sell about $7 trillion worth of stuff a year, which that's a lot. Businesses buy, depending on how you count, it's harder to count, but $30 to $50 trillion a year worth of goods, right? So the volumes of those two things are dramatically disparate. And if you think about a supply chain, something doesn't just get bought and sold once. It tends to get bought and sold a bunch of times throughout the supply chain, and only the very last of those transactions is a B2C transaction. So the potential universe of B2B is much broader than B2C. Arguably, the B2C cases were maybe more sexy and they had more visibility, and so they probably got a jump start. But in general, you see higher ROIs and more benefits now to the modernization and digitization of these B2B use cases.
One of the challenges we recognized when we were implementing Colgate Palmolive projects that how deep is the necessity of customize a B2B commerce and how to convince the business area to simplify the process. This is a huge challenge. And one of the tools that Colgate Palmolive uses a lot from VTEX is called VTEX IO. I do have a big fan of VTEX IO here, Simon, that works for Helen. VTEX IO is the development platform of VTEX, allowing our customers to customize what they need, but we are the DevOps for them. So they develop and they commit inside the VTEX IO is a development framework. How VTEX IO was leveraged, the necessity of customization. Would we do it, the project, without VTEX IO? When the beginning of the project, you almost know there's no touch in the VTEX IO, and now it's heavily touching VTEX IO. So talk about a little bit of this experience that is a platform that gives you the comprehensive solution, but also allows you to touch and customize when you need. Give your feeling on how and why it's important.
Yeah, and I think it's really essential. I think if we said, hey, we're just going to use everything out of the box, it would be, deluding ourselves a little bit there, right? As I said, what we're trying to do is find that balance between having so many things standard, which if we go back a few years, tended to be the mandate in IT terms of get everything standard, you get scale. We know that doesn't work because then you get lowest common denominator kind of solutions and nobody is happy, right? You go the other way, it's too flexible, it's just too high a cost, as you said, Jason. So I think as we went on this journey and we looked at defining the commodity kind of commerce pieces, like we don't want to build a checkout from scratch. We don't want to build some of these basic components of commerce from scratch. We'll take those, but when we get into some of our specific use cases, and Colgate in the US has a lot of very custom programs around customization, even of the toothbrushes that are given out in the dental clinics, and so a bunch of information and experience we need to build around that on the site. VTEX IO was a way for us to do that, to leverage again some of those components that you guys are delivering for us so that we don't have to worry about that, and then we focus on the experience and what we get there. So it's given us a nice balance of we have the freedom and to do that differentiation that we need to do, but it's not going so far that it's soup to nuts the customization, which would require many, many more people on the team.
Yeah, the freedom that VTEX IO is can be also dangerous, right? Because when you allow the developers to do what they want, they also can diminish the quality of the stability, scalability. So it's a balance. And VTEX is into this kind of market that we allow and help big customers to well manage kind of teams across the board to develop the right amount of technology inside and combine with what is out of the box.
Yeah. And I think that's where our architects, both internally and working with VTEX became like so critical through this process to really have the right checks and balances along the way. So we knew what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah. For all the B2B companies here is an amazing case. So after this panel, if you want to look for Helen and Colgate Palmolive team, please go for them. They can share a lot of good practices. Really, it's impressive. And how lean your team is. I'm going to go this. I'm going to jump some questions and come back. Finishing with the first kind of session on transformation implementation. Jason, now it's for you. Retailers, brands, all categories, they are grappling with profitability. It's a thing. I believe it is more important talking about profitability than AI, my take. All the companies are looking for new revenue streams, expedite costs and like eliminate areas, or at the end of the day using somehow to become more profitable. What do you see? We're gonna still in this period of seeking profitability for a while. This is a new normal, or we can hope to come back to the era that the money was in a 0.5% cost. How do you see this? It's efficiency, this kind of a grit. We're talking about grit. What's the name of the podcast? Grit. So, grit is going to be a foundation for the U.S. market or not?
No, I think the shift to focus on profitability is, I can't predict forever, but I think it's definitely here for the foreseeable future. There's a lot going on all at once, but like as Jordan showed on his chart, like the three post-COVID years were the greatest 3 years in the history of retail. Like people are surprised to hear that, but like retail has never grown faster than those 3 years. The top line wildly scaled. We all should have retired at the end of those 3 years because comping against those numbers totally sucks. And so growth has been much harder to come by. This year, we'll get the final numbers on Thursday, but this year probably is going to have grown like 3.5%. But if you look behind that average, there's two bad things in that average. Number one, that is not very profitable growth. So there was a lot of inflation in that number. There was a lot of trading down to more affordable goods. There was a lot of discounting. There was a lot of extraneous supply chain costs. That means we had an average year of sales growth that likely stemmed from a below average year of profitability. But the other thing is, in retail, Walmart, Amazon both grew way faster than 3.5%. Temu, Shein, TikTok shops grew way faster than 3.5%, which, if you think about it, basically means the rest of retail did not grow. And if you think about how Amazon and Walmart grow, they grow by being extremely efficient and selling the most goods possible for the lowest price possible and the most convenience. So it puts more stress on everyone's supply chain than ever before. All the goods we sell are getting sold more efficiently at lower margins than ever before. And it just means inefficiencies that we could get away with and that we could tolerate in the old days, like, will now put us out of business. And so I think when you look around this show and when you hear the use cases, even for something like AI that are successful, it's going to be the use cases that had a short-term ROI in reducing costs, not these sort of change the customer experience to bring in more top-line revenue. I think that's really going to be the focus for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, VTEX definitely agrees with that. 1 year ago, we were in a kind of debate if we would develop our own modules or we would trust in the models that comes from the market. Then we realized, hey, forget about it. This is AI modeling is as a cloud infrastructure. Not for the application to manage, it's for the application to use it. So we decided to say, no, we're gonna not having our own models, we're gonna use models in our favor and we're gonna do it pretty fast. So I'm seeing a lot of our customers across the globe spending hundreds of millions of dollars in modeling and zero metrics, zero outcome. And I'm asking myself, say, why? So, and in the middle of the profitability kind of a wave. And companies needs to learn, I believe, on to be more precise in their capital allocation. Right now, AI is still fancy, probably still for the next 1-2 years, but reality check will come. And when the CapEx starts to hit the level of the third year, fourth year of amortization, and people start saying, oops, it's not like that. So I foresee a direct relation between profitability and CapEx allocation for modeling. And I rather that my clients would invest much more in, say, what is out of the shelf, what is out of the box, what I can do it to eliminate 30% of my customer service. Let's do it. This is my point of view on that. Okay. Changing gears for strategic and cultural. Colgate impressed me a lot by the consistency of the team that I do have. We are managing with Colgate Palmolive for, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years since Brazilian case and something like that. The team is pretty consistent. And I asked Helen about it, say how you keep that consistency, and she said, culture. I say, I'm gonna put you in the spot and ask you in front of the audience. So please explain why you answer to me. Culture, it is a piece of your kind of type of management and the way you see how to bring a concise and precise team.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something we joke about internally. When people have been in the company for less than 5 years, they're the babies, because we tend to stick around. So I'd say, look, there's multiple components to it. Culture at a total enterprise level is really a key focus for us, and it's a real driver of the success and that Colgate Palmolive has as an overall enterprise. We spend a lot of time talking about it. It's not just it's there in corporate things we go through training. It's people really believe in it and they really live it. So we have 3 tenets to our culture around caring. We care for each other, we care for the people and pets and professionals that we serve and the planet. We're inclusive. We want everyone to feel like they belong, right, when they're in Colgate. And I think any of us who've worked there for any amount of time truly feel that way, that people make a huge difference. And the third one, which is relevant here particularly as well, is being courageous, right? We look for change, we embrace it face on, because our company is over 200 years old. We want to be here in 200 years. We're not going to be there by doing things the same way all the time. So we're constantly looking at how do we evolve and how do we move forward to that future. I would say in our commerce area particularly, we've had a concerted effort in this space. We've actually brought in a lot of new talent, so probably we have one of the lesser tenured teams in some ways, but it's really a balance. We have a bunch of folks that have been with the company in different roles over the years, and then a bunch of new people. And what we've been looking for as we bringing talent in is passion, right? Passion about what we're doing as a company, our purpose as a company, but also around the area of commerce and people and how we're engaging with people and delivering solutions for that. So I think that's really been a key piece of it. So people are around like-minded and also then diverse-minded people looking at it. We have one of our team members runs some side businesses in the commerce space and kind of brings a lot of ideas and thoughts from that. We had a great example a few weeks ago where one of the team who in a previous life did graphic design and UX, but now has a developer role, was looking at things, wasn't happy with how it was working, and spent some time on the side and came up with a great solution for something. So I really think that innovation, the openness to it, has really driven our ability to have lean and get a lot of stuff done, but have people stay around and continue to evolve what we're doing.
And characteristics of your team is also they are multicultural.
Absolutely. Super international.
They come from all over. And I am seeing these multicultural aspect as a good thing. The companies that have the multicultural team, people coming from India, from Brazil, from Colombia, from Romania, and putting them to work together in New Jersey, where you have your IT headquarters, it's impressive because the energy, the creative, all the aspects of the best aspects of each culture can be absorbed. So it's another thing that I recognize that you are doing pretty well and is making the difference. Congrats.
Thank you. Again, I think we work as a global team, right? So while we have a lot of our folks based in New Jersey plus remote across the US, we also work really closely with our regional centers in Europe and in India. And I guess we have the benefit being in over 100 markets that we've got a lot of different folks we can draw on. Yeah.
Yeah, Jason, now for you in terms of strategic vision and cultural, let's talk about the boxes of the org charts, like a CEO, CMO, CIO, how a regular retail is structured. In an AI-informed world, 15 years from now, could we anticipate that it is fair to say that the org chart of a retail in an AI world, mature AI world, is going to be different from what we do have it today. In what sense would be different? Do you have any vision on that? Say, how the AI would affect the org chart of the companies?
Super interesting question, and it was not in the rehearsal, so thanks for that.
No.
I'm teasing. So I don't know the answer. It would be super dangerous to predict 15 years from now. I think that I think Bohr said like predictions are very dangerous, especially of the future.
It'd be cool if you could, though.
Yeah, I'd have a better job. But I will say I feel like there's two dimensions that I do see both having an impact on the future of the retail org chart with AI. One is about leveraging AI itself, and I suspect that's going to follow this sort of same playbook we talked about with Chief Digital Officer, or even, and hopefully no one in this room is going to get scared by this comment, like VPs of e-commerce. When e-commerce launched at all our businesses, we all stood up separate e-commerce organizations. Very technical term, it was Store 999. That was the e-commerce store, was Store 999, and a separate team ran it, and it was a separate P&L, and you had an e-commerce merchant and brick and mortar merchants, and you had e-commerce marketers and brick and mortar marketer, and that probably was the right structure to stand up something that didn't exist before in a company that had never done it before, and to recruit enough people that had expertise in it and learn that expertise and all those things. Today, that's a much more rare structure because over time, the IT guy said, wait a minute, there's a bunch of servers under your desk, and you're maintaining them with different technologies and different core infrastructures and expertise, and we should all do that together. And the merchants were like, wait, and there's merchants over there in your department, and they should be sitting with my merchants and the marketer. So the sort of silo to get it started made sense. But then over time, it got absorbed in, and we joked about the chief electricity officers or the chief digital officers. There already are chief AI officers in a bunch of organizations now. Like, it's already sprung up, and part of me chuckles at it, but part of me thinks it's not absurd to have someone like really helping them. My biggest client is Walmart, and I'm in all these scary meetings with Doug McMillan. He starts every meeting now by saying, how did you use AI to prepare for this meeting? And it's because he sees himself as chief coach of the company, and he's trying to push his employees to be thinking more about those kind of things. So on the one hand, I say, hey, I don't think the org chart 15 years from now is going to have AI roles on it, because I think AI will be like oxygen or electricity or any of these other things. But what I wonder is, are there functions of a retailer or brand right now that were really hard because they were labor intensive? And you gave a great example, the data entry department. The data entry department was the most important department. Technology eventually made that data entry much easier or obsolete entirely. And so I do wonder, one of the scariest retailers out there right now is Shein. They don't have merchants. They don't have someone saying, hey, the new fashion is skinny jeans, let's skin skinny jeans to the factory. They scrape TikTok and they find out what kids on TikTok want to wear, and they make it in 2 weeks. And so you go, hey, if AI enables experiences like that, maybe there are functions that exist today that we won't need in the future, but I'm not bold enough to predict exactly which ones those will be.
Inside VTEX, I did a kind of a global announcement last week saying that AI will affect every single aspect of our daily professional lives. So you do have two options. Or you embrace it, learn and adapt, or you just make like a kind of blind yourself and make it that doesn't exist, and somehow you're going to be surprised when it pops and just change the way you work. So every single aspect now needs to be addressed by some test. So I do see that org chart will change. For example, the marketing department, I believe, will be dramatically impacted by AI, because the capital allocation, how you do brand, I believe the brand is more related to the customer service than to the cost of acquisition. So cost of acquisition might be out of the marketing, and it's going to be another thing, maybe sales. Even the IT department, it's gonna switch a little bit how we see things, and if we don't change the org chart, we will not be able to address the reality. So, on this AI-informed world, the composability, composable architecture, middlewares, integrators. How is going to be the ecosystem? How would and Helen and Jason, both of you, how would be a architecture in 15 years' time? Do we still have middlewares? Do we going to have like a translators layers? With the evolution of the modeling as a service, the data warehouse will be a structured kind of environment, or is it going to be a non-structured environment? So in your opinion, the impact of AI in the composability and the composable architecture, give your I don't know if it is an opinion or a bet or even, so please, your comments.
What I would say is, I think even out in the next 5 years, we'll see a lot of evolution in this space, right? Super hard to predict, as Jason said, even on org structure style. I think what's most fascinating is observing what those changes are and being more ready for them. I think we're well positioned and feel confident that having the composable architecture in place and continuing to work on that will position us better for that. Having a lot of focus on the data side of things and making the data ready for AI and more ready for AI is a real imperative for us. I can't even begin to imagine in 15 years, to be honest with you, what will be there. I think we'll see a lot of paradigm shifts, things that the whole electricity kind of example of probably some concepts we're not even thinking what they are, right, and the structures that we're used to today. But, step by step, being more prepared for that and experimenting as much as possible so that we're able to react, I think, is really what's critical.
Yeah, I think Skynet was scheduled to happen in like 2027. So yeah, 15 years seems pretty hard. Yeah, again, I don't know. I'm pretty confident that the fundamental nature of composable solutions and what I would call just object-oriented architectures more generally are going to be more important, not less important, as all of these expectations for interoperability and frictionless data exchange between all of these different functions is only going to increase. What I do think is interesting is it might be in a less structured way than we see today. Like today, to create more microservices, it's very structured. Someone writes an API, someone writes a data dictionary, someone has to very implicitly create that microservice. And the future may be that a lot of those required microservices can leverage technology to just bring themselves into existence. And the way I think about it, when e-commerce first happened, all the product content we could get from manufacturers was one field. There was one unstructured field that had all the information about even something as great as Colgate toothpaste, right? And over time, we all spent a fortune to make that data more structured. What size is it? And what ingredients are in it? And what compliance issues are there? And all these different attributes of the product. And originally we hired armies of people to retranscribe that. And so today we have much more structured product data than ever before. Increasingly, people aren't bothering to add even more structure. They're using these new capabilities of the LLMs to sort of create ad hoc structure. And so I could see a future in which object-oriented is more important than ever, but those objects are somewhat ad hoc and come into existence whenever they're needed.
Tomorrow, we're going to have an event of VTEX called VTEX Connect Live. We're going to talk with Simone Biles. And I was with my daughter yesterday at the office. And I need to write the welcoming kind of a message. And I say, why not to ask her to do it? She's 12. And she said, I'm going to do it? And I say, yes, it's your responsibility now. So I put her in my computer and I ask her, write my speech. I read literally, I didn't expect any reasonable piece of welcoming. And then I was rehearsing with the team, and then I came back to her and say, did you finish? Yeah, Dad, I do have something here. Holy shit. I'm going to say exactly the words tomorrow that she wrote. 12 years old. And then I say, did you do it? I say, yeah, but I need help of some AI tools. I say, what AI tools did you use? It's my computer. And then she went to the browser and showed me I need to do a speech for my dad for welcoming message, and she did it. It's amazing. So the way AI is affecting life is just putting ourselves in a level of productivity that we never imagined was possible before. So it's gonna be fun to live this moment. It's like electricity. My grandmother lived the era that was without electricity and with the electricity. We live the era without cloud and with cloud. But AI, I believe, is going to be as huge as electricity. So, interesting. Okay, 12 minutes, the end of the panel. Helen, for you. AI is not new. How are the retailers, brands, reducing costs to improve profitability using this new world? Do you have any example inside Colgate Palmolive? Do you know any kind of project around the company that is targeting to reduce costs using AI? And you have something that you said to me that AI is not new, and I agree. Now is a way of using in a Gen AI that is making the world like a wake up. So, any particular project that you're gonna see for the future of Colgate Palmolive using AI, change and touch profitability?
I think there's a lot of interesting ones going on, and as we think about AI, you're right, it's been around for a while. I think obviously Gen AI is the area that's really super interesting and gaining a lot of the focus at the moment. Thinking about our conversation and just mentioning for a second, I think this whole idea of we've a lot of grassroots use of AI, right? We have a safe chat version of ChatGPT that everyone can use and throw in their, our proprietary information into it, and that's really helping to elevate and I think driving a lot of efficiency. And therefore, I'm linking that to profitability, right? The more efficient we are internally, the more that's really driving. Okay, all of these opportunities we can go after, we can do it in a more efficient way. I think from a bigger picture, and obviously we have more centrally led bigger bets that we're going after. I think one of the super interesting and relevant to this space examples we have of, if you think about supply chain, for quite some time now, we've talked about digital twins and the value that they can deliver. But what we've been experimenting with and starting to leverage is digital twins of some of the professionals or consumers based on all this huge amount of rich information we have over the years of working with partners so that we can try out new ideas and concepts in that way without standing up large, long, expensive studies. Well, there's always going to be a place for those, but it just helps us make smarter decisions and accelerate some of that life cycle. And I think those are some of the really interesting pieces that we're learning from, and I think will become more ubiquitous as we kind of move forward.
Thank you. So for the brands and retailers in the audience, from Jason and Helen, a open question. What piece of advice would you tell those guys here that came to NRF and seek for that message as a kind of a spark to do something? So what piece of advice, what key takeaways from your experience in Colgate transformational projects and journey would you recommend for those planning their own B2B commerce modernization? Please join highlights and lowlights by using VTEX or new platforming. So open stage for you. We do have our good things, but also we do have our bad things. We recognize proudly that. Please share your experience, your advice, 4 minutes for each. 3.
Yeah, so I think if you reflect on the journey we've been on to get it to this point of these, the screens that you're seeing on rotation here, it has been a journey. As I said at the start, there have been highs, there have been lows, a lot of different learnings on the way. I think often in this space, you hear about the speed of e-commerce that continues to accelerate, and so there's a lot of pressure and urgency on getting solutions out there quicker and quicker, right? So we are always wanting to, how can we deliver? We see these great stories from other people of how quickly they've been able to do, and we haven't necessarily in the past been able to unlock a lot of that. So as we embarked in this area, I think that's one of the things, the level of urgency we had. And I think, there were times we probably shortchanged looking at, okay, really where are we taking a little bit more time at the start to really be clear where we want to go, to get everyone on the same page about what we do want to have as core, and then jump into it. So I think, we had a really solid technology strategy. We felt comfortable. We went forward. Could have spent a little bit more time, would have saved us in the long run. It sounds a little bit generic, but really, we lived it. And so I think it's always worth reinforcing these things. And we as well focused a lot on the technology, what we were doing there with the architecture and moving forward. But what we hadn't fully baked and then pulled it together very quickly once we were into it is the other aspects that make this really successful. You need governance processes. Some people hate that word. I do sometimes myself, but it's really critical in terms of being purposeful about, overseeing the different people and partners working in the solution, so you're not left with a lot of technical debt. How's this going to work? How is the work going to flow through the system? And then ways of working. So again, as we were scaling, we start out with a smaller team who start to get really familiar with the systems and the solutions, but then you're working with regional teams and different, folks from SIs onboarding, and really having that formalized and really clear for people, so people know, what do I do in this situation? Don't leave it ambiguous. Don't assume people know. Over communicate is something that we feel like we know sometimes, but sometimes have to relearn as we go through it. So I certainly wouldn't underestimate that. And then I would say, just lastly, like any new software that you're starting to implement, I think I mentioned we had a bunch of folks who were familiar with working in the e-com space, and maybe that was how those previous legacy systems worked. Even though we knew we were heading towards something different, you make assumptions on what that looks like. So don't underestimate that sort of learning curve initially in the first implementation, to take the time to make sure people are familiar with it and to spend the right amount of time with the SI and with the vendor to work through that. VTEX in particular, I think there's areas where you guys have been great partners in. Things were on the roadmap, we worked together, we pulled them forward, or we adapted them for us. I think that's always part of our strategy as well. We have a long history of working with partners to co-create, and that's something we were able to do with you, and it was important, so helped.
Thank you. Jason, now you, a bit of advice for the folks here. Besides migrate to VTEX, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
That's not even an advice.
Yeah. It goes without saying, obviously just migrate to VTEX. If I had one critical piece of advice, oddly, VTEX works awesome everywhere except Argentina. For some reason, whenever you try to install VTEX in Argentina, it seems to crash. I don't know what that's about, but that would be my one piece of feedback for the VTEX engineering team. Kidding. Brazilians don't like Argentines, just saying. But my serious piece of advice is, kind of came up in your answer as well, Helen. It's what a smarter than myself person called take time to sharpen the saw, right? And by that, what he meant was, hey, you're in a super rush, you got to cut a log in half. It seems like you should just grab the saw and go at the log, but it's actually faster to stop, sharpen the blade on the saw, and then cut the log. And it seems in the moment really hard to take that time to sharpen the saw because it doesn't feel like you're making progress on the log. And in the same way, I imagine every single person that came to this show left a backlog of 100 things they had to get done at the office. IT projects, deliverables, whatever. And then they came to the show and they're going to see 20 shiny new things that they go, oh no, I should add those to my backlog. But we all probably have the resources, time, treasure, whatever, to do 4 of those things on that 120 item backlog. And so the answer isn't do all those things. The answer is be prepared to do the things that are going to add the most value. And we may not even know what those are right now. So I don't know which log to cut, but I know I'm going to need a sharp saw, right? And so as I'm looking at all these technologies and I'm thinking about what the next module to implement in VTEX is, or the next geography to expand in, thinking to myself, what are the precursors that I know I'm going to need no matter which market I go into or which module I need, and you know, that's a great place to focus that really precious treasure. At the moment, I would say a lot of those things end up smelling like data. Like, that data fuels a lot of these things, and so getting the data governance right, like investing in having a good structured set of data, is a lot like sharpening that saw to me.
Yeah. If I'll build just very briefly on that one, I think that has been really key. There's so many shiny objects out there, and the unlock and the reason we're able to be leaner efficient is really not going after all of those things. So one of the pieces on ways of working for us was really that value realization framework of, we go after the things that are really we feel strongly are gonna deliver, versus the million other things that may or may not.
Yeah, well, I would use the 2 minutes left to leave a message with all of you. First, thank Helen, Jason, to be here. It's not easy to get like an executive in. It's kind of a representation to be in the stage of NRF. So thank you so much. She needs to run away to get a car and be in a flight in 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm fully aware. We're gonna do it. It's gonna. So, but thank you so much, Jason. Jason is representing also John Panella, the CEO of Sapiens, that unfortunately had an accident. Everything's okay with him, but he torn his Achilles. So Jason is representing John here, and I don't want to miss John to thanks how much Public Sapiens are helping VTEX in many clients, and thank you so much for the partnership. So the last message. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., Glass House is a 15 minutes walk or 7 minutes by car. We're gonna receive Simone Biles and Rebecca Andrade and the CIO of KitchenAid, Goku, to talk about e-commerce, talk about size leadership, grit. Those two represents grit. And of course, a little bit of drinks and a DJ. So everybody here, if you want to go, please scan the QR code or go to the booth of VTEX 5357, something like that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Mariana.